All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we are doing Birdman from 2014, a movie about a washed-up superhero actor who attempts to revive his fading career by writing, directing, and starring in a Broadway production. This movie has a 16 to 18 million dollar budget. It was a limited release. It made 103 million in the box office. It was directed by Alejandro Gonzalez, and it received a 91% critic score and a 78% audience score. It's a comedy drama, 2 hours, rated R. Andrew, Aiden, what did you guys think of this amazing movie?
Well, I'll definitely
My
start
pick, by
off
the way.
thinking that it was a movie about the rapper Birdman, so I was definitely falsely advertised on my end.
Yeah.
I
But
did.
So you
no,
guys had never seen this, right?
I've never seen this movie, and it's been on my list for like quite a while. Just because
Okay.
I feel like everyone's heard of it, but
I'd
I
heard of
can't
it. Yeah,
say
it won what? Best Picture and Best Direct. It won like a couple awards, and
what year was
I
that.
I,
2014.
I don't know
It would have been in 2015, I think.
who was in
Yeah,
charge of giving those awards.
yeah. I want to see what the competition was that year because
Well, so
it
what do
must
you
be
guys not
some
like about
shit
the movie?
movies. It's
So,
not even what
Josh,
I go ahead.
explain to me what the plot of this movie is, please.
Oh, do you want me to reread it?
No, I mean,
No,
It's
I
a
want
washed
you
up
to
superhero
the
actor.
plot is basically, I mean, how many times have you seen this, Josh? Just once?
Twice. No.
And were you on shrooms?
No.
Were
Nope,
you
level head.
drunk?
So the reason I found this movie, because like we said, it came out limited release, so I didn't see it in theaters. There's a few YouTubers I watch that critics that I've grown up watching, ever since high school, and both of them watched the movie, and I saw Michael Keaton was in it, and I like Michael Keaton a lot, and Ed Norton. So I watched their reviews, and it's like literally three different guys, three different channels, and they all regarded it as like a masterpiece and one of their favorite movies that year. And like I saw like a top 10 list of that year, and it was like this and Interstellar right next to each other. So it's like I want to watch it. So I watched it in like 2015, and like you guys said, it won a couple awards, and I saw that, so I gave it a shot, and I really liked it a lot. I like the overall message about how this guy, you can tell he's really struggling as a father and as an actor. And I always found Broadway to be very interesting. And I like what it says too about, action movies, and that basically to make it in the industry, you just have to be in these blockbusters and you can't do like these small roles, which he wants to be passionate about. And it reflects on the real world where he was Batman and he stopped being Batman in 1992, which is when he stopped being Birdman in this movie, to do more passion projects. And he feels like in his career in real life that he kind of fell off a little bit compared to what he used to be in the late 80s, early 90s. So that's what I like about the movie. It feels real. And then like the one shots too, is like the way the movie shot's
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's the
Yeah,
one
so
thing that I can give it praise on is the cinematography. The shots,
Yeah.
everything like that.
beautiful.
There's a lot of long like single shots like you said, but the transitions were really good. I like
Mhm.
that. Like and almost every time you saw a bright light like on when they're not on stage and doing all that, like whether it was a preview or the real thing at the end, um I like that transition when it goes to that bright light and then it goes to a stage light. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
no,
Yeah. They do a lot of cool stuff
I'll
like that.
say that
Go
too.
ahead.
The camera work in this, especially towards the end, when he's in the hospital bed there, and they're
Yeah.
like all up in their face like this, it was really neat. That was really
Because you
cool.
want to see his face, especially after they said that he blew his nose off.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they did do a really good job with the
But
camera
that,
work.
I mean, that's what I will say is that the cinematography was very good. The basis of the story, like if you go in depth, like you just said, Josh, like it does bring more meaning in the movie. But I feel like there was a lot of emphasis on him being a bad dad, but they
Yeah.
only mention it. They don't show him like really being a bad dad, enough to put his daughter into rehab.
Sure.
I feel
Well,
like they don't
I
really
feel like the
show too.
scene.
It's only takes place inside the theater.
Well, yeah, and like, but his character too, you gotta understand, is trying to change and be a better father. But you can kind of see it in the cracks when he's yelling at her,
Mm.
and the way he's kind of treating her at the beginning of the movie, where he's not letting her speak, to Ed Norton's character when they first meet, or when he finds, the weed that she's smoking because she had drug problems in the past and did rehab. So you kind of see it a little bit, in certain cracks, but you can tell he is trying to be a better father. And to talk about the cinematography really quick, I know we just kind of all talked about it, but it felt so original and refreshing to watch like something like that. And like I get excited to watch the transitions between scenes and how they're going to
Yeah.
continue the scene going. And like you almost feel like you're there with them experiencing it, the way things move and stuff like that through hallways and following different characters. You'll follow Ed Norton for a few minutes and then you'll go back to Michael
So
Keaton.
yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
I don't know if I liked that aspect or absolutely hated it. Like I could not wrap my head around if that was good for this movie or not. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if it was pissing me off that I was
But
watching it that way.
It's the fact that it's a Broadway movie that I feel like it works for that, because that's like kind of the way Broadway is, right? With the scenes moving in and out of the stage
Yeah.
and you trying to feel and follow the characters. Like I feel like for an action movie like a blockbuster, this would never work. But for a movie like this, that's supposed to be,
It works well
it
for
works
what
for the
it
movie.
is.
It's like a
Yeah,
tight setting though, especially it being just
of course.
like in that theater alone.
Yeah.
That's what it definitely does it justice. If it was shot any other way, I don't think it would be as critically acclaimed. It wouldn't have all
No.
those titles that it has. And that's
No,
one
and
thing
like
that really does save this movie.
yeah,
in
what
my
movie
And
do you
opinion.
watch where you're like excited for a transition?
Yeah.
Never. You know what I mean?
Star Wars.
okay, I wasn't excited for a transition in
I
this.
was kind of
They
excited,
just
especially
did it
maybe the
well.
second time around. Yeah, maybe the second time
I
around.
just thought that
Well,
it was like, I mean, you definitely got to be in the mood to watch this kind of movie. There's a
I
lot of
don't think I
shit going on.
was.
It really reminded me of Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Like there's so much going on. You feel like over the edge. You're uncomfortable watching. You're like, Jesus, like fuck, everyone's screaming. There's different shots. I especially like the transitions or kind of the long running shots where you're like focused on Michael Keaton's character and then it goes off to Edward Norton and it's
Yeah.
just like follows into his room and then it goes from there. Like that's sweet.
Yeah. Well, and two, like, even I know I mentioned that like how Michael Keaton's connection to real life and to this movie are pretty similar. And it's even like that for Ed Norton, who like plays this like, movie star who is kind of hard to work with and yells at people, which he did in real life too. And like he was even able to play on that kind of character too, and tough to work with. And so that was really cool too. And
Yeah, I don't.
and like,
So that's where I didn't like this movie, to be completely honest. How there was that massive bridge between real and the movie.
Mm.
I want to just watch the movie. I didn't care about what they're doing in real life, and I felt like
yeah,
there wasn't a clear barrier with that in this movie. It was kind of like, or especially with the end where they're like, there's the helicopters and there's the stuff blowing up, and it's like this is
oh,
what
you
you
didn't know
need.
it was real or
Yeah.
like that, you mean?
Yeah,
Or do you
I
mean with
just
the actors in real life?
I
I
mean
didn't
with
know if
the
you meant like their
actors
personal lives or okay.
yeah, their
I
personal
get what you
lives.
mean.
I didn't like that crossover with also the movie, uh,
Okay.
from my perspective.
So like
Yeah.
him being Batman in real life, like to Birdman.
Yeah,
and-
I didn't give
Okay.
a shit. I didn't want to hear
Okay.
that. I
Yeah,
wanted to
see,
watch the movie for the movie.
I figured you guys wouldn't like the, helicopters blowing up and the him flying as a Birdman, like that
Well,
stuff.
so that's where at that part
I
of the
didn't
movie,
even
which is
care. I
like
was just like, what is going
it's
on?
literally like the last quarter of the movie when he's on that roof and he jumps down and he's flying in the sky. I'm like, dude, this like the end of the movie has to be like him dead. Like it's all in his head that he's obviously doing all those superpowers and shit, like telekinesis, and he's got like the force breaking the lights, breaking
Well,
his
so
thing, but you see it's all natural. But in
yeah,
his
so that
mind, he's just like kind of having a skits episode.
yeah, so that's the thing. So like that reminds me of all that stuff. Reminds me of like Enemy and like Eyes Wide Shut, where the character you're following, the main character protagonist,
Yeah.
is seeing things that kind of isn't real to the outside world and to the rest of the movie. So like it's all in his head. He's losing, and that's what causes him to do that thing at the end. But like, so that's kind of that connection I make. I don't know if you guys see that too with like Enemy seeing spiders, right? Or Tom Cruise and
Yeah,
Eyes
no,
Wide Shut
actually,
seeing things.
I got the same kind of vibe as Enemy, how I was like unsettled watching this just because I really didn't know what was going to happen. So I kind of felt the same way along those lines. But
Yeah.
My thing was I was
Uh,
just kind of confused that I mean they get like I have no background on Broadway or any plays. I've never seen a play besides
that's
the
a
one that you
shame.
were in, Josh.
No, thanks.
But
That's why I picked this.
but what was I gonna say? No, like a play is obviously like what, an hour and a half, 2 hours long almost,
Yeah, it
or at
depends.
least an hour
And they have
plus.
intermissions too, some of them.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
only see like those two scenes really the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one where they're in bed and he's got the gun, and then the one where they're at the
They're eating.
eating at the
Yeah.
table and they're drinking.
Yeah.
And then originally the first one was like crazy. He's like, well, it's funny because he doesn't want to work with Edward Norton, whatever his character's name was, Mike Shiner,
Yeah.
and he goes and like on the preview, I thought that was the real deal. The original one where he's like, "You took my effing gin" and all that.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "All right, is this real?" Like, and then his character is like, "Oh, he just does what he wants," and he's like the center of attention. Like when he gets on stage, he does a performance that is obviously gonna shake people. And you
Yeah.
know, even if he goes off script, like it doesn't matter. He's saving the show in his eyes.
Yeah.
And like when you see that, I'm like, oh, like is this like it's just gonna be a free for all? Like they're just gonna do whatever the hell they want. Like,
Yeah.
and that's when Michael Keaton's character gets pissed off because he's like, get this guy out of here. Like, I want to see him gone and all that.
Yeah.
But I
What?
do like Edward Norton's character, and I did like Zach Galifianakis' character. I
Yeah, he did
wasn't,
good.
dude. Michael Keaton's like role wasn't like it wasn't like crazy in my eyes. You know,
Mm.
like his character, his dialogue, all that. It wasn't like wow, like he's a good ass actor. It was just like it just felt kind of like normal.
He's
Really?
delivering
Yeah.
his regular lines. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
like I
know. I
mean,
wasn't impressed.
What about the part where he's pretending like what his dad did to him when he was a kid? Like he didn't think
that
that
was
was good
good.
acting,
No,
or
that was good.
Yes.
But I'm saying like out of all the cast, like I mean, basically him and Edward Norton are the main two,
yeah.
and
Well, because
Naomi Watts.
you gotta think, right? They're remembering like 15 pages worth of script, right?
Yeah.
In these scenes because they run so long, and then two, he's playing a character who is an actor, so has to act in certain scenes
Yeah.
as an actor, and then he's being a real person, a dad who's losing his mind and is scared of losing his
And
career.
he is
So
an actor in real life.
yes, they all are.
Very-
Yes.
very-
I'll say right now, the one absolute worst scene of this entire movie, and it made me cringe, was when he originally goes on stage, he's doing that monologue out to the audience, and that light shining right in his face, you just see him spitting everywhere. And then Edward Norton gets up there with him, and they're like yelling at each other, and they're just spit everywhere. I'm like, oh,
That's when the counter or the things break, right? And the gin.
yeah.
Okay.
That's like one of the opening scenes, and I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, like I said,
What'd you guys think when that light came down and hit that guy in the head? I mean, that's the first
yeah.
thing where it's
yeah,
like
it's like
in,
the
in
first
Michael
10
Keaton's head.
minutes.
Well,
Yeah, he's
remember
like, I
Michael
did that
Keaton
to him.
goes, I did that, yeah,
Yeah,
because he's
Yeah.
in his head.
yeah. And
The
Zach
guy died. I don't
Galifianakis was
remember.
like, what?
So I originally started this like probably a month ago, like before we even knew that we were gonna do it, and I watched 6 minutes of it and then I passed out. So then that's why I started back up, and I thought Mike was watching. I'm like, damn it, Mike. I'm like, you ruined wherever
Well,
I stopped at.
So there's a really cool part too. There's a part where Reagan and Jake are walking, and they're walking down the street outside, and it's at the beginning of the movie, and you hear drums picking up, and as they're walking, and you're thinking as a viewer of watching this movie, oh, like this is the soundtrack, right? Or this is whatever it is, right? No, they walk past the guy who's playing the drums that you're currently listening to, and then as they're walking away, it gets quieter and quieter, and it's like really cool the way it's shot and the way the music is, that you would think watching the movie that it's just like the characters aren't hearing it, but they are. So it's really cool stuff like that. I mean, it's just refreshing as a movie to watch something like this rather than your action movies. Even though I do love action movies, I think we all do, but like it's a little refreshing to have this, and I like the commentary it has on it.
Maybe I'm too brainwashed. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, so I
wanted
can't.
stuff to blow up. No,
I
I'm
wouldn't
kidding,
say I
but-
absolutely hated it, but I mean, it was a good watch. But I wouldn't 100% never watch it again.
Yeah, when you guys were texting me, I'm like, are we watching the same movie?
I would not only would I
just
never
didn't,
watch
like-
this again, I wouldn't recommend this to anyone either.
Wow.
And that's the thing is, I mean, like you said, it's like it's got all these accolades and all that, but in my opinion, I really didn't enjoy it. Like, yeah, it's unique for itself, but I don't know, like it's
Well-
not one of those movies that's sitting with me,
Well, what did
I
you guys
go
think
in-
of Emma Stone? Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
No, she does good.
I thought her
thought she did
character
pretty
was like pointless though.
Yeah,
Really?
I didn't
She
really,
didn't really do
understand
anything.
her
She's got that
significance.
conversation upstairs, and she's like, "You want to fool around with me?" He's like, "No, I just want to. I want to gouge your eyes out so I can see the city how I used to when I was your age." And I literally sat there, and I'm like, "What the hell am I watching, man?"
Some of the dialogue is just so strange in this movie. I think it's because they're going for that Broadway-esque, like how they
and-
talk.
Yeah,
But
you don't
at
know
the
what's
same
real and
time,
what's
it's just-
fake.
It's written so strange, and I'm just sitting
Yeah.
there sometimes like, what are you talking about?
But can you agree that like when you're watching it, you don't know what's real and what's fake?
Yeah.
Well,
No,
yeah,
I
but
agree.
but
that's kind of the
especially
fun of the movie,
yeah,
I
and
think.
when you were talking about that father scene when Michael Keaton's doing that thing where he punches him in the face and pushes him against the lockers, I'm like, all right, I'm waiting for him to break character, and then I'm like, oh, maybe he's being legit, and then he's like, I gotcha, and I'm like, fuck, I knew it, dude.
Dude, it was my second time watching it. He tricked me again.
Yeah,
I'm
nah,
like,
I was
damn, all
waiting
right.
for it.
Yeah. What was your guys's, I guess, favorite scenes? Did you have one at all? I mean, you know, was a scene that stuck out to you guys at all?
Andrew's gonna say the credits, but
No.
That was one of my favorite scenes.
no, I would say my favorite scene was uh,
I can go first.
I don't know. I
I have
mean,
a
the
scene that I
one
really
scene that
like.
kind of like threw the entire movie off was when they're in bed doing the preview, and he's like, "I'm hard." He's like, "Let's do it right now." And there's
Yeah.
800 people in the crowd. He's like,
Yeah, because he says
just
like
freaking out.
he feels more alive when he's on stage rather
Yeah.
than when he's not,
And
which is
that's what I hated,
crazy.
that Emma Stone had to take him to stage in order for him to get up and fucking go up on the rafters while her dad's practicing down low.
Well, you know what's cool about that shot? So like they're up there fooling around or whatever, and the camera pans down and goes down to the stage, and
Mhm.
Ed Norton's sitting there on the
Yeah.
table. So
Yeah, I
it's like
know.
it's a cool like mind fuck
Yeah.
transition.
That's what I will give it. The camera work was really good.
Yeah, my favorite scene I think is probably I have a few that I really like, but I think my favorite scene is when he's yelling at the critic, the movie critic,
Yeah.
or critic in general for Broadway, and she's just like, no, I hate you, so I'm gonna give it a bad review because
Yeah, but she
sadly
has
that
no reason. She just said that, like, she said something. I don't know, maybe
yeah, and like sadly that happens in real life, you know what I mean, where people are just like, no, I fucking hate this person, and I'm just gonna give
Mhm.
this a bad score no matter what, and I'm not
I
even gonna
definitely
give it a
did
chance.
like that part because it did feel natural. Because he's like,
Yeah,
"Who are you? Like, I'm putting my entire life into this play, and you don't have anything. Like, you, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't make or break her if she
yeah,
writes a good review or a bad review. It's just it depends on who she's writing it about, and that does make sense. But I mean, it's not so much. I guess Broadway might be different because it is a show. But I mean, if people are waiting outside and they're paying $500 for a ticket at a preview, like it's not going anywhere. I assume that that's
yeah.
pretty successful for a play.
Well, then too with the viral scene of him walking around his underwear,
Yeah,
which helped ticket prices
yeah.
skyrocket.
I
That
did
was pretty
like that
funny too.
scene. He went out for a smoke and then he just gets fucked
Yeah,
over.
the door shuts on his
But it's kind
robe,
of
and you
crazy
just
how they're
know
not
right
like,
away.
where's he at? Because they're obviously like on stage and you hear him like, where's Riggin? And then
Yeah,
he
but they
comes
wouldn't
out in
expect
the
him
back.
outside in the pouring rain in his
Yeah,
underwear
but the
to
one
check
guy
there,
saw him go out. He opened the door for him, like moved, and
Yeah,
said, "All right, I'm going to smoke."
yeah,
But
yeah. That part's funny because you could just tell from a mile away, like, oh shit, like he's gonna have to walk all the way around. And,
yeah,
he's a famous actor, so people recognize who he is.
uh, I guess I could say my favorite scene was when they were originally at the bar for the first time after the
Mhm.
whole gin incident on the first preview, and he's like, "No one's here for this show for like, no one's coming to the show for you." And then the lady in the family comes up to the bar. They're like, "You're something rigging." He's like, "Let's
Yeah.
take a picture." They just completely ignored Edward Norton's character.
Well, Aiden, I know you set up too, and those girls probably kissed, right?
Yeah.
That's his
I
favorite
mean,
part.
how could you forget?
When I watch a movie and like we give our ratings at the end, I always rate
Mhm.
it like I feel like we try to be we're super edgy. We try to be different from the critics. Um no,
Well,
I try to rate the
it's a
movies like
91.
yeah, yeah, I'm giving this a probably a 97. I try to rate the movies like on my entertainment and enjoyment. And maybe like you said, Aiden, you got to be in the mood to watch this. I wasn't.
Mhm.
Some didn't hit for me for this movie. Like I literally the credits rolled and I was like, oh sweet, thank God it's over. I was like,
Wow.
now I can
I mean,
talk about it
so
on the
there's one thing
podcast.
that I would love to meet one person that says this is their favorite movie of all time.
They've
Yeah.
lost. They are
Uh,
Birdman. They've lost
I
their
would,
mind.
yeah,
I have video
they're
clips of
going
people
crazy.
saying it's a masterpiece and stuff like that. And I don't really agree to that extent, but I do think it's a great movie.
I
I
mean, like,
think it
if you have
has
background
good
in Broadway or like
yeah,
play,
or maybe
like that
film,
scene,
and I just know nothing, and I guess negate all my previous scores. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I didn't enjoy this movie.
Well, what
yeah,
did you guys think of the end? Let's talk about the end. Because you think it ends like 3 different times.
yeah.
You
Well,
do.
I really wish
What did
the
he
ending
do?
was
Did he
when
fly
he,
away?
according to Emma Stone, but she's probably high on something, so realistically, she's probably thinking about it. She's probably just hallucinating.
Maybe
So
the whole movie's
he's
inside
dead.
her head.
Well, no, so there's three
He's on a
different
mushroom trip?
interpretations for this. The
I think
first
he
one
died.
is, yeah, the first one is that when he shot himself on stage, that's when it ends and he's dreaming, or the rest of it's just like not real. The next one is when he jumps out the window, he commits suicide again, and then the last one is that his daughter finally sees him for who he is, and she actually sees him flying. So there's three different endings there to what people think.
I want the one where he's flying, because throwing more
Yeah.
nonsense into this.
Yeah,
dumbass
no,
movie.
so I do like that. Like I said, when he's using his powers in his mind, he's trashing his dressing room. Zach Galifianakis walks in, I think it's him or Edward Norton, one of the two, and you see him smashing it with his hands. So obviously he doesn't have powers.
Yeah.
You know, like he's just got that voice in the back of his head, which is his past life or
His
past success.
untamed
That's
mental illness.
yeah, he
Yeah, because
is
he's always been
mentally ill.
breaking things by himself. He's never had someone
Yeah.
else.
So
do it.
then that, and then the one scene where he jumps off the roof, and I'm like, all right, this should be the end of the movie. Like from here on out, it should be all a dream. Like
Mhm.
it should cut, and they're like at his funeral or something. Like, you know, like it's just like a false hope, false reality that we're seeing. But then we see him fly to he's flying through New York just above, and there's like that's where you should be, above everyone, like all that. And then he lands at the theater entrance. He goes in, and then you like, oh shit. And then the cab driver's like, hey, you owe me money. So he didn't fly there. He got dropped off by a cab.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you see that, and then the ending when he jumps out of the window or when he shoots himself. I mean, you see him load the gun, and he's got a
Yeah.
real bullet in it. So I'm like, oh, like he's just not even gonna try anymore. Like he's just done. And
I thought he was gonna shoot someone.
well, he pointed the gun
Alec
at
Baldwin
the
kind of thing.
yeah. Well, that's crazy that this is some Alec
Before
Baldwin
that,
shit. Yeah.
yeah.
But
Although he knew what he was doing.
yeah, so you knew he was trying to commit suicide, which I don't know how he like blows his nose off. I mean, I guess it's just something to put in a movie.
Laying straight before or something, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean when he jumps out of the window, he's for sure dead.
Well, I think we all I think the three of us especially kind of like when movies are left a little open-ended. I think that's kind of fun for us,
Yeah.
especially if you rewatch it for any
Nope.
movie.
Never.
Well, for any movie with a
No,
open
okay,
ending.
any other
Yeah.
movie, I mean.
Yeah, I'm talking about in general. I think we all kind of like the like Inception ending or Prisoners or anything like that, where it's kind of like
Great
you
movies.
can assume, you have an assumption, but or even Enemy, which we recently talked about, like
Yeah.
they kind of have different
That
endings
was a
in
real
the way you
spider.
interpret it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I was wondering how you guys would like the ending, or
Oh,
I figured you guys
man.
would hate it, the ending.
No, I mean when she looks up and she's laughing, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I like the
recommend a
cast,
lot
and
of movies.
I like how they mention like real life actors and stuff like that. Like let's get I don't remember, it was so early in the movie.
I
But
know
he's
they
like naming all
mentioned
these
Jeremy
actors that
Renner.
he wants. Yeah, he's like
Yeah,
Jeremy
and they're naming
Renner,
real
and,
movies
like
that they're in.
he's a superhero. He's an Avenger. Then they
Yeah.
said Robert Downey Jr. and he's like talking about it. He's like he's in a tin can making
Yeah.
billions of dollars.
So is it
and then they're
ironic that
showing
he comes
Spider-Man and all them.
back into a Spider-Man movie?
And
Yeah.
Batman, he's back as Batman too.
Yeah.
Almost a decade later.
Well,
after
who
this
wrote this movie? It wasn't Michael Keaton, was it?
No, it was Nicholas
Oh,
Gabacabone or something. He's a screenwriter. And the director Alejandro
yeah.
Gonzalez also
Yeah, I
screenwrote
see
too,
it.
and he produced and directed it.
Mm. Yeah, but
no,
I mean, it's not
I
like
think the cast was great.
the cast was good, and like I said, Naomi Watts, she's from the original King Kong.
Yeah.
She was in The Watcher. She's a good ass actress,
Mhm.
and every time
Yeah,
she's on
Amy
stage,
Ryan's
like
in it.
it's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can kind of get into the trivia here. There's some good ones here. Maybe this will change your guys' mind on the movie.
Right, maybe.
Hopefully,
Because the movie was carefully rehearsed and shot in sequences, editing only took 2 weeks. I feel like that's
Makes
kind of got to be a
sense.
record, right? 2
Yep,
weeks for
that's
editing
probably why
for a
it's
movie
so
is pretty
shitty.
crazy. For a 2-hour movie,
2
there are only
weeks.
there are
Sometimes
only
it takes me 2
17
weeks to edit this podcast.
there are only 17 visible cuts in the entire film.
Wow,
I was trying to watch for them too. I think I only saw like a couple.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, giving the you know what that reminds me of? I think it's 1917. Is that movie that came out a couple years
where
ago?
It's one big take for
Yeah,
most
it's
of
like
it.
one big thing,
Yeah.
and I think they only cut like 3 or 4 times. That's
bad.
crazy movie too. I just watched those and I'm like in awe of how they did it, I guess. I don't know. I guess that's what's the impressive thing is like, how the fuck did they pull this off? Like, where they're not
Yeah.
cutting at all, you know?
Yeah, the coordination
So,
effort behind
yeah,
it. Sorry, I'm
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
dropping
that's
in
got to
there.
be stressful for a lot, all of
Yeah.
them. Given the unusual style of the filming, long takes, Edward Norton and Michael Keaton kept running tally on who would mess up between all the actors and actresses. Emma Stone made the most mistakes. Zach Galifianakis made the fewest. He actually did mess up a few lines during the filming, but played off his mistakes well enough to where the shots could still be in this film. So that's pretty cool. The movie was largely shot inside Broadway streets, James Theater. Michael Keaton and the rest of the cast had to adapt Alejandro G's rigorous shooting styles, which required them to perform up to 15 pages of dialogue at a time while hitting precisely the choreographed marks. That's intense. Like I said,
That's
learning
pretty
all those.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Similar to how Michael Keaton's Birdman reflects on his earlier role as Batman, Edward Norton's character is a parody of Norton's own reputation of being very abusive and difficult to work with,
Hmm.
like we mentioned earlier. During the press conference at Reagan's dressing room, he says that he hasn't played Birdman since 1992, which is the same year Batman Returns 1992 came out. This was the last time Michael Keaton played Batman until this year, where he's going to be playing Batman in the Flash. The scene Reagan running through Times Square in his underwear was filmed after midnight, so the amount of real bystanders caught on camera in the shot would be limited, and the majority of people in frame were hired as extras, and crew members.
Huh.
So
Well,
that's you could be walking through New York and end up, um, you know, in this movie just by
yeah.
a chance and seeing Michael
No,
Keaton run around in his underwear.
that'd be a little bit strange.
Okay, my last one here. Because the film is designed to look like one long uninterrupted shot, no scene could be cut or discarded in post-production. This led to the script taking unusually long time to finish, as the writers had to make sure that they were happy with every single scene. So, yeah, that was all the trivia there. You guys ready to get into stores?
Sure, let's get into scores. All right, so we will now get into scores here. Aiden actually had to drop off here. He did send us a text on his score, having some uh, trouble with his grandmother. So we hope Grandma Bender is okay and everything resolves. But Josh and I will kind of finish this out here. Aiden did give us a score. He gave us a 48 out of 100, which is higher than I'm going to give it.
No, that's probably a typo. He probably didn't
Nope.
mean.
He meant 48 out of 100, and I'm glad that he did because I will be giving this a 40 flat out of 100. I did not like this movie. I'm sorry, Josh. I'm giving it only a 40, and I said I was going to give it a 0 earlier. I'm giving it a 40 because it had beautiful cinematography. I thought the cast was really solid, and I could understand the appeal for this movie. It didn't do it for me, though. That's why I'm not giving it a 10 or a 0 or something. I was like, I'm never going to rewatch this. I'm never going to tell someone to watch this. So I'm sorry. You give a lot of great movie recommendations. I didn't like this one,
This
but
was one of them.
I'm not liking this one. But we can hear your score here.
Okay. Yeah, so I recommended this movie because, I think the cast is great. I think the way the movie shot's amazing. I think um just the overall acting and directing of the movie is great. I think the plot is awesome too. It's, a character who's got trouble going through life and has mental illness issues and is trying to piece his family back together while also saving his career. And it felt very real and personal to Michael Keaton himself and what happens every day in real life for actual, people in that industry. So I thought you guys would all like it a little bit more. But what can you do? I really like this movie a lot. I know we mentioned earlier that there's some YouTube critics that I watched that regard this as a masterpiece, and I see where they're coming from. I don't really necessarily see that, but I am gonna give it a pretty high score. I'm gonna give it a 92. I really like this movie a
Wow.
lot for the reasons I explained. Yeah, I think it's a great movie. Sure, there's those couple scenes, right, where it's like a little tiny cheesy where Ed Norton's up, on the roof with Emma Stone talking about gouging her eyes out. But that's the thing is like he doesn't feel like he's real when he's not on the stage. So it like works for the character. If anyone else said that in the movie, it'd be like, what are you talking about? But when you're following each character and the camera's just moving around with you, and you leave Michael Keaton for like 15 minutes and you're following Ed Norton now, and and it's still all interlooping in the same scene in the same building. Like, it makes sense that it's a limited release, smaller movie. And I agree with everything it says with blockbusters and what it's saying about movie critics or critics in general, that they'll just spite you just because, when it's an artist who's trying to give a true performance. So, and I liked the message too behind, like, he tried to kill himself, and everyone just cheered because
Yeah, that
he gave his
was
life, or attempted to give his life or something. Yeah, so it's like there's a lot of symbolism throughout the movie, and I just liked it all. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that score.
gotcha. I think that's fair. I mean, this is probably the biggest variance we've ever had in scores. I feel like, I mean,
Yeah, and I assume we probably won't have that big of a gap. I mean, I'll never say never. But yeah, I mean, that's about
yeah,
that's a 50-point difference right there.
we're talking a 50-point swing there. Which
Yeah,
I
that's
don't think
pretty
we've
big.
ever.
That's half the board.
Well, actually, I think Brian's As Above, So Below. I think he
Yeah, that
somehow
was
pulled off like a 70 in there, and I'm pretty sure I gave it like a 10.
like a
Uh,
12. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay. Oh, so it
something
might
in
already
there.
be beat.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
actually might
We'll
be
have to go
beat.
back and look.
But I think this should be noted that this is actually a pretty highly critically acclaimed movie, which, like I said, I usually can fall in somewhere with the critic and audience score. I feel like I fall somewhere in between there, usually, give or take.
Yeah, because even the audience is 78.
Yeah, I didn't like this one. I'm one of
Wow.
the one stars that's helping tank that down, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a couple of people that just didn't like this one, but
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Um, no, and we'll be back Friday, right? We're doing John Wick 4. Very excited for
Mhm.
that. Long one too.
Yeah,
It's a
we may have an extra guest on. Yeah, we're a lot of people we know are going to see that, so maybe we'll pick someone else
Yeah,
up.
yeah, we're going with a lot of. I think we're going with Sanch, Siri, Spencer. We'll have to get one of them on. So,
Yep.
yeah. But all right,
All right. See you.
I'll see you.